I took my phone and I Googled Denmark, North Korea, just to see if there were anything around that. And then there came up a little old Danish Friendship Association supporting North Korea, with all communists at the age of probably at that time age 60 plus, and they were having a public meeting in Copenhagen, and I was like, let me type an email. So I was thinking if I told them I saw East Germany, it was they would probably don't get back to me. So I start printing a lie for the Danish chairman, and I write that well when I was a kid I experienced East Germany and it was the most fantastic place on earth because everybody got a job, the whole socialist system, communist system was working. It's so sad that capitalism destroys the world, all those kind of things I like to hear. And well, he replied me that I was very welcome at that meeting. And then I reached out to Mads. I don't know why, but I typed in a message on Facebook and didn't expect him any answers back. And I told him the true story, and he said, "Well, that sounds interesting, and keep me posted if it's any kind of interest." In my opinion, I said to him, "I can do a better documentary than the Dread Chapel with you if you want to be with me."
Wow.
And he said later on that, well, I was his lottery ticket going back to North Korea. So let's start with Anders. I usually don't talk bad about people who passed away, and it's also very important for me to say that Anders was not a bad person in that way. But yeah, when he came to North Korea, he was treated like a royal. He got what is it called in English? The chairman's suite at the Yanggakdok Hotel, maybe a private driver, every time a reserved table. Felt like I'm the chairman from Denmark of the Danish Friendship Association. I have some kind of power here. Alejandro is to be frank, he's a narcissist and psychopath. He's benefiting from people who's at one point in their life he tried to put people into his association, telling them, hey, there's a lot of unemployment in Spain as the rest of the world and Europe, but those people could come here and be a part of his association. And if you look to North Korea, everybody got a job. You got an education, got daycare, you got everything. In Spain, you get nothing. Spain is destroyed by the capitalism as well. But Alejandro also found a way in to make big money of putting in investors like he did with me and Jim. Luckily enough, none of us was criminal and trying to make money. But when we were together with Alejandro, Anders was quite easy to be together with because he was living his dream of like, what if Denmark was North Korea? It would be fantastic. Alejandro was driven by money, power, and that was quite obvious. And if Alejandro don't like you, he just ignore you, kicks you out, or even worse, if it would be in North Korea. We saw some documentary before we even started them. I saw before starting the mall that he accused journalism, people for doing wrong recordings in North Korea and tried to face them justice in North Korea. So in North Korea, Alejandro was the most powerful Western man, no doubt about it. After 6 months' time, after the meeting in the Friendship Association, Anders reached out to me asking if I want to become a board member in his association. And I was like thinking, hell no, my name is not going to be on the internet saying I support North Korea. But on the other hand, none of my friends or family paid any interest in North Korea. So I said, well, yeah, sure. And every time at those meetings, every 6th week, we met up and we have to do a speech for the dear leaders, which were then noted, and then the speech was sent by mail to the North Korean embassy in Stockholm, which covered Denmark. It was so funny. But one of the things they always wanted to discuss was how do we gain more member in our association? How can we spread out the word about the fantastic socialist regime in North Korea, or dictatorship is my word today. And I was like, oh, I know there's going to be some kind of, I have been spoken with Mads and the producer and say, well, just dig in and here's a camera. And I was like, how should I film in North Korea or those people? Because filming North Korea could cost your life. So I went to one of those meetings with a little handheld camera in my hand and say, hey, why don't we do small video clips about our association, telling the massive work we're doing to tell the true story about North Korea? Not the things that the press in the US or UK or South Korea or Japan prints out. That's just lies. What if we do small video clips to YouTube? And everybody was like, what's YouTube? You know, all people, all comments. So I had to explain the whole YouTube era, how it was built up and sharing for free. And Anders Christensen, he love to see himself on TV or listen to himself in the radio. So he said, well, that's what we're doing. So I think I made 5 and put them online. And before the release of them all, I think they were watched all in total 49 times or something. But that made it possible for me to go to North Korea, because what I didn't know was that Anders Christensen has sent my videos to North Korea. So they have been shown in North Korea. So when I came with him the first time, which was scary as, yeah, well, you know, you go into a country, if you do a minor mistake, you could probably stay there for 15 years or 20 years or might even get killed. But they trusted so much in me because Anders Christensen told them that I was a good man, my whole background story from East Germany and childhood. So they allowed me to film almost everywhere. The only places I weren't allowed to film was when Kim Jong-un was attending a speech in front of us. And there's one place more where he also attended. I couldn't really be able to film. But otherwise, I was allowed to film, and they even took my camera filming me around. Well, the first time I went there, it was a bit more than the others. But the second time, when I came back to North Korea and brought in the fake investor, they drove us around everywhere. They didn't care about my camera. They didn't care. They took my camera, filming me, talking about drugs, weapons, whatever. The first time in North Korea, I met Alejandro at a banquet dinner I think it was the 15th of April. The country's founder Kim Il-sung's 100-year birthday. And he had heard of me through the canals in North Korea and of the films, and he said to me, well, when you come back to Denmark, could you please send me an email? And he gave me his card, and I didn't know. I heard about a Spanish soldier, and people laughed at him because Spanish citizens walking around North Korea in military uniforms or North Korean suits, trying to sing opera in Korean.
Bonkers. It's crazy. It's so crazy.
So bizarre, and so when I came back to Denmark, I replied him and said, hey, Ulrich, we met in Pyongyang and blah blah blah. And he said, yeah, well, he wanted me to be a part of his association. He founded back in the year of 2000 the International Friendship Association, the KFA, Korean Friendship Association. And Google him again, and okay, he seems really crazy, this guy, but I had never suspected him at that point being a criminal. But I agreed on mass to type him back, and then he sent me. And by the way, if you can find somebody who wants to invest money in North Korea between 50,000 euro and €1,000,000, we might do something. And that flipped everything around, because to be honest, and I told Mass and everybody as well, the way into this was also for me trying to get into North Korea to see the country, because it was quite expensive trip, but they saw something that could be good in the future. But now we go from a little friendship association in Denmark with elderly people, and in my mind, if I go to North Korea with these people, I could probably do some kind of the real lifetime Monty Python show going to North Korea. Imagine Anders be portrayed by John Cleese would be fantastic. But going from that point of view to investment, which is illegal because of all the sanctions. So he wanted an investor, so simply as that. And it would have looked quite bizarre if I came on the third day with an investor saying, hey, this guy want to invest a lot of money. So I spent almost 3 years traveling around to meetings around Europe in the KFA, and having a great network, and gain the trust of everybody. And I think at that point, I know at that point they all were really, fascinated me because I was quiet, but also knew a lot about what to do and what not to do, and we discussed everything. We booked a suite in Oslo, Norway, and the plan was that Mr. James, which was his business name, were having a stopover in Norway, travel around the world. And the first time I met Jim was in the airport in the morning before going up there meeting with Alejandro later in the afternoon.
And you had to pretend like you knew each other quite well,
Best
right?
friends for years.
Right.
but,
It's
but
stressful.
it came quite easy to us because we just said, well, our background story is Mr. James, world traveler. I'm educated as a chef, and I went one out to do a dinner where he was a guest, and we started talking. And then he asked me if when he comes to Denmark to his place, if he calls me 2 or 3 days in advance, if I will, put in some food in his refrigerator and fresh milk and meat, bread. It was the first time I was wearing a hidden camera, so that was scary. And I've been doing that now for hundreds of times, but you never get used to it because it's still well, it's got the size of the cover to AirPod.
Like AirPods, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, but I have to pick up Alejandro in the airport, so I went to the central station, which was just near, and the airport train, and then the plane from Barcelona arrived, but I couldn't see Alejandro anywhere, and I was like, okay, he probably figured out something is going on, and then suddenly he he just came out, and we are in Oslo, in Norway, but he comes out in a North Korean suit with North Korean medals on, with his little trolley behind him. I was like, I can't follow this guy all the way into the city center.
Yeah,
Um,
my
but,
goodness.
but but luckily enough, there was not so many people on the train. So, but I remember walking from the station to the hotel. I walked like 10 feet in front of him because it was so
Are you
embarrassing.
hoping people thought it was sort of fancy dress or something?
Yeah,
So, but yeah.
and I was like, um, I can't be seen with this guy. It's embarrassed, and walking on the street with this and the hidden camera as well on, and we come up to the hotel, and I remember I say to him, I'm a bit nervous now. I wasn't nervous, but because of the camera, yes, but not, because we're in Norway, we are two-person in the room, we will easily could, take him out if something happens. But I was just pretending like I'm nervous. Will it be a successful meeting? What will you talk about? All of, and he was like, I've done it many times before, no worries. And we come in and we agreed on that Jim should be walking around with his phone, pretending he was in the middle of a call. But that was the way to make a bit of confusion, so we can place Alejandro in the chair nearest to the microphones and the best player of the cameras. Um, and I introduced him. I was like, Alejandro, this is Jim, also known as Mr. James, and business-wise, blah blah blah. And then I wanted to introduce, Alejandro to Jim. And I said, this is Alejandro Cao de Beños. And he was like, and I'm the representative of the North Korean government, blah, blah. And he just kept talking and talking. And after 5 minutes, he started talking about drugs, weapons, regular pharmaceuticals, missiles, and I remember at one point, Jim and I got the eye contact, and we spoke about it afterwards. Said, what were you thinking? What I was thinking? We felt that we got him because that was people wanted to hear from North Korea, that they can sell weapons, they produce drugs to sell around the world. But now we're sitting in front of a man who represents the North Korean regime. He's awarded several medals. He met the leaders. At that point, we didn't know if he was also just, bragging to maybe gain 10,000 euros in the pocket for Mr. James or whatever. But it changed the story dramatically because now we're going from probably people who support North Korea because they are stupid people. That's my honest answer about people supporting North
Fair
Korea.
enough. Yeah.
And then I think it's very important for me just to say that I don't hate North Korea.
Right.
I don't hate North Korean citizens. I hate the people running the country, and people in North Korea don't got access to. They wouldn't be able to talk like you and me now. You in UK, I'm in Denmark, and they can't even talk with the family in the next city. Um, but from the stupid people supporting North Korea to people who are doing criminal activities with North Korea, that's a big step, and that's a big dangerous step. So what the next one was that the security person behind the mall and the ambassador, who's also a former Danish Navy SEAL soldier, he reached out to his contact, and that's how we got in contact with the former CIA agent Max in DC. And going going to Washington in the age of, I don't know, at that time 40, knowing you're gonna spend some days with the real deal from CIA, was like, what the 10 years again, ready to play agent and all those kind of things. And when you meet up with such a person, there's some kind of aura and respect around him, because this guy, he pulled the trigger against somebody, because he told me many stories from his working life as a CIA agent. And that was kidnapping in South America, drugs in South America. That was, I think it was 6 or 7 days in North Korea with no security around me or around Jim. And the first 2 days was hell, because they were trying to dig into and show us things that hasn't anything related to what Alejandro pitched in Norway. And then suddenly everything changed, because I said, hey, listen, in 96 hours we'll go back on a flight to Denmark or wherever Jim is going, I don't know, through Beijing. Where's the stuff Alejandro talked about? Oh, but they just wanted to make sure that they can trust in Jim. And I was like, of course you can trust Jim, otherwise I wouldn't recommend him. I spent 3 years to find the right person, so okay, then everything just switched around. And the first meeting then we had with those people, that was driving out in the suburbs of Pyongyang. And you can use your Google map, you can use your map on your iPhone or whatever. So if in my, how do you say, in my GPS, inside GPS, it was a bit northeast of Pyongyang. And the house was so
dilapidated, right? Like a proper slum, I think you were saying.
It's like when you see slum in India or something, even worse. And they asked us to go down in a basement in that building, and I think those probably 50 steps from the car to the door of the building, I was expecting to be killed, but I couldn't show any kind of fear. So I just, I was walking in front and said, you just have to open the door when you comes down. But when I walk down that basement, it gets more and more darker and darker. And I was like, in a second I'm gonna hear this from a gun, and then lights out, I'm dead. Easy way to get off, if really so. But I was asked to open this door, and it was quite heavy. And when I start opening it, I could see some kind of lights, like from a discotheque. And I said, oh my God, they're gonna do some kind of psychological terror on us, and then they're gonna kill us, But then opened the door, and then there was this huge table filled up with every kind of food that you can expect in the Western world. But the people just standing outside the door have never seen that kind of food before. And there were beers from Heineken, there was Coca-Cola, there was everything. And we were told, in a minute, the president from the arms factory will arrive, and also the president from the pharmaceutical industry will arrive. So now we can talk business. And sitting there was crazy. But one very, very strange thing happened in that basement compared to all the other things, and it wasn't even dangerous. In the middle of everything, the president from the arms factory stands up, walks through something like a computer, a laptop, and he walks back with a microphone in his hand and starts singing karaoke. And it was like, okay, we're just talking about how to buy and produce, maybe to buy an island in Africa, to build our own factory, to be left alone, work in peace. And now we start singing North Korean karaoke. I said, oh my God, this is bizarre. And and the song was done, and applauding. And then he gives me the microphone and said, your turn, Mr. Larsen. I'm not singing, and but I look at the list, and there were some Beatles songs and stuff. I well, okay, then one, because I knew we were in this basement, so nobody will hear us. So, and the music starts, and I was expecting Let It Be or Hey Jude, and then they had put on Celine Dion with My Heart Will Go On from Titanic, and I was like, what the hell is happening? I can't sing that song because I'm a bad singer anyway, but not to lose face, because in Korean culture it's a very bad thing if you refuse to be a part of the entertainment from the host. So I start improvising a Danish children's song, which I've been singing for my daughters when they were small kids, and even doing some funny thing with my arm and legs, and for that song. It was done, sat down, I emptied a whole bottle of beer. It was like, oh, I need to relax, And then suddenly a North Korean, who's been with us all the time, is standing right behind me and put his hands here. And I was like, shit, next is, he's gonna kill me now. And he said, I can feel that song, that came directly from your heart. And I was like, yeah, but in my opinion, yes, because it reminds me of my children. He said, I can feel it because I can feel in your heart that you love our dear leader. And of course I love the leader at that point, but
Yeah.
Everything is about the leader, or the founder Kim Il-sung. Everything is about them. It's all about them. And North Korea wouldn't be such a fantastic place if it wasn't because of these three people. After being in North Korea the second time, we agreed on not to let me go into North Korea anymore, because there's a story about the American student Otto Warmbier, who sadly passed away because of the bad treatment he was given by the North Koreans. And what hurts me so much today is when I was in North Korea with Jim, being traveled all around like almost like royalties. Otto was detained in North Korea. My argument not going back to North Korea was the world's eyes are focused on North Korea. If I travel in and out your country 5, 6, 10 times a year, that will raise some red flags about my person. So we need to meet out in the world. And they agree on that. So we asked them to come. They gladly booked their own tickets and paid. We never paid any money for them. And
They came out, and for anyone who sees the documentary, it's quite clear, that he is also worried. And there's one part which is a bit of a heart-stopping moment, which must have been stressful for you, where he says, it tracks any listening device that I have on me. And I think you're wearing a device at the time that he's sort of going around the room looking for bugs. And you have to sort of play it off as like, oh, this is a rental key from the car company. And then he falls for it again. And then he starts talking, and he says, we have to call arms woodcraft, and we have to call drugs seafood. So he clearly has sort of fallen for this, but he's trying to save face, I suppose, now.
When he put up that device, I was a bit, I was not scared, but I was concerned about what if, because in my mind he was not suspecting me of doing those. He just wanted to show me so I could tell Mr. James that we take this serious. But I have a hidden camera here and 2 microphones, and I have a bag where I have a camera as well, and when I just came up with the idea of the phone, the car key for the rental car, because it could remote the car from a way to start and stop, and that was enough for him. But if you look at the scene again, when he takes down the device, my hands move in forward here, so I'll try to block the signal from here. I think that was what really saved me, was that I put in my hand in the same moment. But when I had to go back to the car, I turned my back around so it will film behind me. So at least if I got knocked down of somebody, it will probably have
Recorded
recorded,
recorded
yeah.
some of the evidence.